Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I want to go over this article I came across in the past hour. I just stopped by Starbucks, got some coffee here, and I was like, let's film one more video today. I put out two earlier today, but I figured we would finish it off here looking at the draft for the Packers in this article I came across on DairylandExpress.com. And now we're only, 9 days away from the draft, so things are coming up quickly. We've been going through lots of different potential scenarios that could go down, clearly with the biggest need being wide receiver, I'd say, for the Packers. Of course, adding Sammy Watkins as well. But it is still exciting to see, what could happen in the Packers draft. So I want to go over this article here. So this is from DairylandExpress.com. The article is titled Top Targets for Packers in First Round of 2022 NFL Draft by Brian Sampson. So they say right here to start it off, the Green Bay Packers will certainly have these players as their top 10 targets in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft. There are a few positions we can rule out of Green Bay targeting in the first round, so let's start there. It's safe to say the Packers won't be grabbing a quarterback. Could you imagine if the Packers drafted a quarterback? Could you imagine? That would be crazy. Running back, interior offensive line, linebacker, and tight end due to their current roster. It's probably also safe to remove cornerback from this list, although that's not completely out of the question. Yeah, I feel like with bringing Rasul Douglas back, the cornerback group, at least the starting group, is pretty solid. But I do think the Packers will probably use some draft picks in here, at least a draft pick to have some more depth there at cornerback, because we've seen in the past, there's always injuries. Last year, Jair was injured, so I bet the Packers will use some of that draft capital on cornerback. They say next we'll mostly use relative athletic scores to guide us toward the players whom the Packers favor, which just measures basically athletic ability overall. Green Bay has tended to grab stud athletes, especially in the first round, so we'll move the players who tested well athletically up the list. However, not every guy in the top targets meets that criteria. Some of them are just too good of players at positions of need to pass up. That leaves us with around 10 players who the Packers should have at or near the top of their list for the first round. Of course, the draft is volatile and seems to be at an all-time high of unpredictability this year, so anything could happen. So here is the list of, I guess this is Brian's top 10 targets. So let's take a look at these top 10. So first off, we have two safeties in Daxton Hill from Michigan and Lewis Cine from Georgia. And I feel like when you look at safety, if I'm honest, I honestly don't want the Packers to draft a safety in the first round. I feel like it makes sense because, of course, we have Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos, both basically in the final year of their contract. We'll see if the Packers, exercise the fifth-year option for Darnell Savage. And I think it does make sense. The Packers definitely need to come in here and draft a safety just so that we have, first off, so we have depth this year at safety. But then second off, if Adrian Amos ends up going elsewhere, we need someone else to eventually fill in that role. So I do think safety makes lots of sense. It's just like when you look at the positions that are exciting as a fan, safety is not really one that gets you super fired up like maybe a top wide receiver would, if I'm just being honest. Even though I think safety would make sense, I would be more excited if we didn't draft a safety and instead we drafted some kind of wide receiver. Then we have David Ojabo, edge, Michigan, who I think he tore his Achilles in the past couple months, and so he was a guy who was projected to go top 10-ish, and now he's falling, at least in mock drafts, to the end of the first round. So if the Packers wanted to, draft him, potentially get good value, hope that he eventually heals from that injury, and then maybe in a year from now, he can come in his second season being healthy and be one of the better edge rushers from this draft class. I think that could make sense, but obviously it stinks to have a player injured his first season. Then we got George Karlaftis, another edge player there from Purdue. A guy who very powerful, who could, obviously, I think when we look at Preston Smith or Rashawn Gary, we definitely need to add some edge depth there as well, so that can make sense. We got Jermaine Johnson as well. He's 6'5", great against the run, another edge rusher from Florida State. And then we have the two interior defensive linemen, if they potentially fall. We got Jordan Davis, defensive lineman from Georgia, who is an insane athlete at 300 something pounds, 350, 360s? I don't know, something like that. Then we got Devontae Wyatt as well, Georgia, another interior defensive lineman there who's really much better against the pass. So I think that can make sense as well to add more depth, I think, alongside Kenny Clark in the interior. Of course, we did add Jaron Reed this offseason, but it would definitely be helpful to add either of these guys. And then we got three wide receivers here. Chris Olave, who I'm not sure he'll last till the Packers pick at 22, just because when you look at the mock drafts, lots of times these players are going before the Packers pick. But we do have that possibility of the Packers and all of the draft picks they have. They could definitely move up if they want to. So if they want to jump 5 or 10 teams who they think could draft a player that they have their eyes on, I wouldn't be shocked to see them do it. I talked about it in a video a couple of days ago how 3 different times in the 4 years that Brian Gutekunst has been drafting for the Packers as a GM, they have moved up in the first round to draft a player. So I wouldn't be shocked. Let's say Brian Gutekunst really likes Chris Olave. So if he thinks they could be drafted, he could obviously move up to go pick them. Then we got Treylon Burks, wide receiver of Arkansas. And I feel like when we look at Treylon Burks and Drake London, 2 much bigger guys, taller, stronger, way more. I honestly would rather have Treylon Burks just because of his breakaway speed. I even saw that Drake London didn't want to run his 40 at his pro day. And I would assume I know he had an injury, but some people, it seems like it's okay by now. But a little odd he didn't want to run, probably because his time wouldn't be super exciting, I'm guessing. But Treylon Burks has that breakaway speed, if you watch some of his highlights. And we got George Pickens, wide receiver from Georgia, who I think could be a stud. Definitely missed some time there with I think it was ACL injury back in college, but I think he could be a beast as well. So my most coveted position is wide receiver. I think it's the most exciting position. It's more exciting to talk about than, as I said, like a safety. But all of these positions could make sense. I do think receiver, obviously, big need. Interior defensive line, a big need. Edge rusher, a need. Also, safety could also be a need as well. So we'll see what the Packers decide to do. I'm just ready for this draft to be done just so we can see what the Packers actually decide to do. But I think those are all great players, great potential prospects for the Packers. And we'll see. We'll see how the draft goes. We'll see how it lands, and we'll see what the Packers have coming into this 2022 season. It's going to be exciting. But that is going to be all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. If you guys enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. And if you want to see more Packers content, subscribe. Yep, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.